Welcome back to Friar Talk, everyone. Hopefully, your nights are going well. We got some good baseball. Finally, another winning series. I think it's two of the last seven or two of the last eight. It's been rough, but there's some positivity finally for the San Diego Padres, and I'm excited to talk. It's just going to be me today. Isaac's in Vegas right now, and Chase is at work right now. I think Chase and I are going to do a quick farm update, talk about Ethan Salas tomorrow. That's the plan. So hopefully, me and Chase will be back tomorrow, and then we'll come back on Sunday as well. Bring one of our buddies that's a Cubs fan on. If you guys have followed the channel for a while, you know him. His name's Mike. He comes on pretty often when the Padres play the Cubs. But want to talk about this Marlins series, and I'm excited about it because I feel like lately, not just me, I feel like everyone listening, I feel like all of the Friar faithful, Chase, Isaac, and I, it's been a little bit negative. It's been rough, and rightfully so. In this series, not perfect by any means, but it was definitely a much bigger step in the right direction. Wednesday's loss was really rough just because one, you have two hits all game. You have the Gary Sanchez bomb, and I'll get more into Gary here in just a little bit because I got a lot to say on him. But you get that home run, and I want to say Kim or Bogarts got the other hit. I think maybe Kim walked and he stole a base on in Wednesday's game, but you had like a couple base runners all game. There was no offense yet. Blake Snell comes out, pitches a great game. Nick Martinez gets out of a jam. And of course, the one guy up to this point that has been basically flawless, Josh Hader blows the save. And that's the difference in having a sweep in this one. But still, this is a big series win. And you look up at the standings now and you're like, all right, 4 games under 500, crawling up in the wild card. The Phillies are looking, rough. The Cardinals have bounced back a little bit, but the Padres are ahead of both those teams by a game and a game and a half right now. And it is very early to start talking playoffs, but it looks a lot better. The Marlins were in a wild card spot when this series started. Now they're not. The Pirates are currently in a wild card spot. So it looks good right now. And also, shout out the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks and the Dodgers right now are tied for the division. 7.5 games up on the San Diego Padres right now. But the Diamondbacks had a walk-off today, so that's kind of like your top wild card spot. The Mets are in another one. But you look at it from the Padres' perspective, and they're finally playing better baseball. Now, you did have that really bad offensive outing, but before that, 10 runs today. Then you have the 1-run game that I already mentioned. 9 runs, 7 runs, 2, 5, 8, 3, 7, 7. Last week and a half's been pretty good offensively. Probably the best stretch we've had, since this slump at the end of April started. So it's been really good from the lineup perspective. Tatis went off today. Soto went off the other day. And of course, newly acquired Gary Sanchez tearing the cover off of the baseball. Had a home run in today's game, had a home run in yesterday's game. And it was exciting stuff. I mean, we talked about Gary when Big Baby David came on and he was hyping up. He basically, I didn't even know this, but he basically said yeah, that was one of my favorite players when he was a Yankee. And he was a very controversial player on the Yankees as well. So it was really cool to see Gary Sanchez immediately come in. And in, what is it, 3 games now, he has 2 home runs. Austin Nola has 1 home run on the season. Basically, he's produced more offensively in these first 3 games than any of the Padres catchers have. I feel like it was obvious that was a good move. It doesn't matter what Gary does moving forward. It's just you have to go and get catchers. And I see a bunch of comments about Nola, about Alfaro, about Gary Sanchez. So I'm going to run through all those first before we get into other stuff with the series, just because, that's the biggest thing on everyone's mind right now, right? I feel like everyone's just thinking, oh, wow, dude, Gary Sanchez looked really good. So let's see. We got Jorge Alfaro. People are getting excited about him because I believe he's eligible now. He could get cut. He could basically leave, and he could become a free agent, which the Padres could go after him. So the first thing that people are, Alfaro would confirm Nola being DFA'd. Really hoping we get Alfaro back. So let's talk about that. If the Padres go and get Alfaro, I completely agree, Carlos. He says that Alfaro would confirm that Nola would get DFA'd. I 100% agree with that. I think that's definitely the case. I don't know if they'll necessarily go get Alfaro. I want them to. I would rather have Alfaro on the roster instead of Nola, but I still think that they view the catching position oh, Nola's the defensive guy and Gary Sanchez is the more of the offensive guy. And Jorge Alfaro is not very good behind the plate. Now, I would argue Austin Nola isn't very good behind the plate either because his biggest attribute is calling games, and you have pitch com now. It's not as big of a deal. So I don't know. I think that they probably don't, even though I really want them to go get Alfaro. I also think it's interesting too because if they go and get Alfaro, Campy's got to still be your main catcher, unless Gary Sanchez keeps this up. But I think that Gary Sanchez is kind of like if he can play like this for a little bit, he's gonna be on the roster. I see Lizzie comments here. Gary Sanchez is also kind of a perfect DH, and then you get rid of the Cruz Carpenter situation. Yeah, because Carpenter's been good at times. Nelson Cruz has been good at times, but they've also both been horrendous at other times. So if they're not hitting well, you have another bat that you can throw in there and DH at some points in the season. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, kind of make Cruz expendable. 100%. The only thing with Cruz is that Cruz makes like $1 million. Cruz doesn't really make too much. So I don't really think that's that crazy. But I think that Gary Sanchez, yeah, I mean, if he even continues to play decently, then bringing Alfaro back would be pretty dumb. I only think it's dumb if you're bringing Alfaro in to have Gary and him, and then you're like done with Nola, which I'm 100% down for. I mean, I don't think Sullivan and Nola have really. Like, I know Sullivan's already been sent down, but I don't think either of those guys have proven that they should be on a roster, on an MLB roster right now. Noah's been awful. I mean, he might like if he keeps this up, he went 0 for 4 today. He could fall below 100 on the year. Like I don't know. He's at a buck 25, so it's pretty unlikely. But like, you don't ever want to get to that territory, especially when you're getting regular at bats. So I don't know. I think that I would actually. I agree. Devin asks here. Voit was also cut. Should we bring him back? And Voigt's been bad this year. Voit has sucked this year. However, I think it probably makes more sense. I don't know. Now I don't know. Maybe not. I'm thinking maybe it makes more sense to go get Voit instead of Alfaro, but I don't know. Alfaro was good with runners in scoring position. That's been a big problem for the Padres this year. And obviously, like, he only had so many walk-off opportunities, but he had like 3, 4 walk-offs last year. And right now, the Padres' biggest struggle in terms of if you look at their win-loss record, the biggest issue is they do not win in extras and they do not win one-run games. You add a guy that's kind of clutch that can come in and pinch hit. He showed he was good at pinch hitting. So maybe you bring him, you cut Nola. Maybe I think that's the best thing you can do right now. And then by the time Campy comes back, Campy better have a roster spot. And whether that's you're holding 3 catchers and you're keeping Sanchez and Alfaro's kind of like your late hit, pinch hit guy. Gary Sanchez and Campy can also be DHs if you need them to be. 6 last year. Oh my God, I didn't realize. So I said 3 or 4. I'm underselling him. That's insane. So yeah, I have no problem with bringing Alfaro back. I think it'd be fun. Also, everyone in San Diego loved Alfaro. It was just an exciting time to have him here. So yeah, we do already have 2 DHs. That's why these guys they're mostly catchers still at the same time. I think it's just that you can at least toss them into those spots. The only guy that's only like truly a DH is Nelson Cruz because Carpenter does play first base quite often. But yeah, I'm really down to not keep Austin Nola on this roster. And I'm not going to bring him up anymore because I feel like I just rip into this guy all the time. And I honestly feel bad for him. Like we have to talk about it. Like we have to talk about the struggles and stuff. But I legitimately feel bad because it's like every day, like, oh wow, Austin Nola this, Austin Nola that. So I'm not talking about him too much more. But Gary Sanchez, he came in 2 hits today. He had the 2-run single. He had the bomb. He had the pretty similar hit to the one last night, but immediately adding a little bit of power. Right now, granted, he's barely played. On the season, he has over a 900 OPS, hitting 298 for. He doesn't need to keep it there. If he can finish the season with a 700 OPS and hit like 230, that is a huge upgrade at the catcher spot. That's all we're asking. Now, defensively, I know everyone watched this. It's bad defensively. Like, he loses the ball so much. Now, the good thing is he has an absolute cannon. Like, he almost threw a couple guys when some balls got away and stuff. But in terms of consistently catching the baseball behind the plate, he does not do that very well. So that is my biggest concern with Gary Sanchez. But all in all, that was an amazing debut series for him. Like, I am so pumped that they went and got him, and that's what he came in and did. So absolutely ecstatic when it comes to Gary Sanchez. I see some other names getting brought up here. Dixon been kind of a gem lately. Yeah, Dixon's been all right, man. I mean, his numbers aren't that great, but he gets a couple clutch hits every once in a while. And when it's like when the offense is kind of pouring on, he's had a couple of opportunities where he's came in and had a couple, RBI kind of cleanup spots. So he's been all right. I mean, he's keeping himself on the roster. You love to see that. And then I see something that I was texting the guys about today from Devin. Are you worried about Cronengot? And I see people saying Cronenworth should stay at second. Gil's over here pressing Cronenworth. I don't know if that's necessary. That's our guy right there, but he's been bad. Kim is a better second baseman than Cronenworth. This year he has been. This year he really has been. I mean, you look at the numbers. So right now, I got him in front of me. Oh, I lost him. Jake Cronenworth. He is hitting 206 with a 696 OPS, and he is striking out at a higher rate, I believe, that he's ever done in his career. He's not playing well at all. Offensively, he's been atrocious. And the problem is he's playing first base. Look at other first basemen in the league. First base is an offensive-oriented position. And you have Jake Cronenworth, who's a defensive first baseman when it comes to that spot, and he's not hitting up to the level that he's typically doing. Meanwhile, Ha-Seong Kim hitting 241, not a lot of power, 717 OPS, but he's playing Gold Glove defense, and Kim is taking a lot of bags lately. He has 10 stolen bases on the year. The majority of those have come over the last couple weeks. Ha-Seong Kim is a good base runner, a really, really good base runner. I did get picked off yesterday, so I guess there's that. But they've been a lot more aggressive with guys on the base pass. I absolutely love that. They did it for like a couple weeks ago. They did it for like a series or two, and then they faded away from it. Keep doing it. Dude, Ha-Seong Kim, Tatis, and then you have kind of like the second level of like Cronenworth, Bogarts, guys like that. Some of these guys can move. If you have like Ha-Seong Kim let off today, I think they're going to keep him leading off as long as he's hot. Because he's the one who started the rally today. So, I mean, if you're looking at it from this year's perspective, when you're kind of doing a Ha-Seong Kim versus Jake Cronenworth, it's not really that close. Like it really isn't, because Cronenworth is just striking out so much, and typically Kim either hits really high in the order or really low in the order. So he's almost kind of plays like that spark plug type of role where it's like he's like leading off and like starting rallies and stuff. He's not coming up to the plate as much with guys on as Cronenworth, who's been, I mean, he's let off a couple times, but he's typically hitting like second, fifth, sixth, and there's a bunch of guys on base, and he's been striking out so much. So I think Jake's easily having his worst season that he's had. And last year he started out slow as well. It was not this bad. It was not this bad at all. And it's a little bit scary because they just signed him to that big extension. And I mean, you guys know I have a Jake Cronin God jersey. Like obviously he's probably one of my favorite player on the team. So I want to see him succeed, but like I'm nervous about Jake Cronenworth. I did not feel that way last year. I thought he was going to bounce back of it, but you look at his numbers, and maybe this is the AJ Preller and their coaches and the Padres developmental system issue. Maybe it's more of that than really a Cronenworth problem, but every year his numbers have dropped roughly like the same amount, kind of like he just keeps falling a little bit. And that's a scary thing to see. So I'm really concerned with Jake. I hope he turns around, but like it's been rough sometimes. And the hit he had today was kind of like a dribbler up the middle. It wasn't like he like ripped it or anything. So it's been rough. I don't know about Jake turning into the next Grisham. I mean, Grisham sat today, and I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I think Jake and Grish, it's like, because we've been talking about it so much of like, you most likely need to trade one of those three guys: Grisham, Cronenworth, Kim. Well, Kim's playing the best right now. Cronenworth just got a contract, and Grish has not improved on your team, but he's valuable, and there are teams out there that are going to believe they can improve him, and he's a Gold Glove center fielder. So there's going to be a market for Grisham. There's going to probably be the biggest market for Grisham out of those three players, which is weird because he's probably the worst guy but he has 2+ years of control this rest of this year and another 2 years of control, and Tatis looks like a monster in the outfield. So Tatis has been a monster in the outfield. Maybe you move him to center. Well, a guy that we brought up, and maybe we'll do an episode on this later on, or maybe like some Grish trade packages or something. But Luis Robert, or I think it's pronounced Robert, not Robert. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's a stud outfielder. You probably want him in a corner spot. You could put him in center. You kind of have him and Tatis in either one of those, but he's a good hitter. He's a good power hitter, and you could potentially go after him. And I think that'd be a good move. You're not gonna be able to give up just straight up Grisham, but like the White Sox suck. So you can go and try to have a package with him and add a couple prospects and do whatever. I think we might see that. I think that's starting to become the path when we're looking at this. Like, oh, what are they gonna do? That's probably got to be the move. Not necessarily him, but it's probably going to be to move on from Grisham. Maybe they don't, but Grisham is if he's off, he is the biggest hole in your lineup you can have because he's going to go up there and he's going to strike out like all the time. Like I don't think I've mentioned this on the show yet, but I legitimately I like bet parlays, like player parlays pretty much every day. I almost always bet Grish to strike out or Grish to not get a hit in these parlays. Like almost every game. Unless he's hot. If he's hot, you don't do that. But if he's off, like that he's just gonna struggle. So it's just like it's just hard. So I don't know. I think he's probably the odd man out, but it's really, really interesting. Yeah, Cronenworth and Grisham are not doing themselves too easy yet. Cronenworth's down to 207, 206 actually now. But yeah, it's been rough. 11 mil for Cronenworth. And it's weird too, because you look at it and you're like, well, if you move him back to second, that's still odd because then where does Kim go? Because Kim's playing better. There's not really as much of an answer because it's like you have to move one of them or keep them in their spots, and you have such an offensive deficiency. And obviously, Kim's not going to move and play first base. He's not a first baseman, but like just in theory, you move one of those guys to first base. Like that's still a very below average offensive first baseman. So either way, like it's hard. Like it almost feels like you're going to pick one of those guys to start, and the other is going to be a bench bat. And what it's been like the last couple of years is Kim's been the bench bat, and then last year he got to play a lot more, and we got to see him develop a lot last year. And it was like, okay, he's going to take that big step in 2023. And at first he wasn't. But he's almost got a hit like every single game for the past 2-3 weeks. Like go look at his stats, and he almost gets a hit every single night. Like he gets on base almost every single time. He's a terrific base runner, and he's fast. He gets on, like he does a lot of stuff, and he's great defensively. So it's like, yeah, he doesn't have the power, but he's improving. So it's a really weird spot. I'm so intrigued to see what they do with this roster at the deadline, because we know that they don't have much capital in the farm system, but like they're gonna still try to improve in some way. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Also start sending your questions. I'm gonna keep going in there. But wanted to bring up a couple other guys. Two guys that started the season off very, very slow for this team in the pitching department. Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove, monsters in this series. Now, Snell doesn't end up getting the win. Unfortunately, his record's still going to sit at 1-6, which looks really ugly. But Blake Snell's starting to turn it around. Joe Musgrove, last 2 outings, he has been phenomenal. That is a huge development for the starting staff, because you start seeing different guys like Shane Bieber, I believe, is available now. And like we were talking like, oh, would the Padres even try to go after an ace? Probably not, because they have enough pitching right now. Like we're going to be all negative all the time about the offense. Well, what about the pitching? Padres led the league in ERA in May. Now, they were 5 or 6 games under 500, so that makes it seem really rough in that case, but they led the league in ERA last month. And a lot of the reason that's the case, because these starters have been terrific. And it's not Darvish. Darvish got rocked this month. It's Blake Snell starting to turn around. Joe Musgrove looks good, and then you have Darvish. But Waka, Ryan Weather's been good. Like, we've seen when Seth Lugo's healthy, he's really good too. So, like, you have all of a sudden 4 guys you're really confident with in the top, especially if Blake Snell's going to turn it around. I'm going to take a look at his last couple games here. But you have all these guys, and then you're going to have a question of, all right, well, we have Lugo and Weathers. I think Weathers is probably the odd man out, but Lugo's so up and down with health. You have Robert Suarez coming back. You have all these arms that are like potentially coming back soon. I know Nabil's coming back. He was really bad earlier on the year, so I'm not going to put too much emphasis on that. Pomeranz, in theory, could come back, but we know that's not going to be the case. But you do have Suarez coming back. I'm trying to think of the other arms that are coming back because I want to say Castillo's coming back. But there's a lot of talent on this team. So and especially in pitching. So it's going to be really cool because I don't think they're going to be forced to go and try to make a move for an arm, which a lot of times at the deadline, it seems like trying to trade for pitching is almost impossible. Or if you're just trying to trade for like an average bat, you can do that relatively easy. You can give up like not much in terms of prospect capital to do that. So I think that's a great development. If the Padres pitching they don't need to be as good as they've been this time around, but we know what they're built like. And if they can stay consistent and they can stay healthy in the starting rotation, maybe get a couple guys back like Suarez, like Lugo, this is a good team, dude. This is a good team. And I think I see a lot of Kim hype in here. Olivia, thanks for the super chat. We also see one from Danny. My biased opinion, I want Kim long term. He's a Padre guy. I think everyone feels like that. And that's like whenever we bring up like trade discussions for Kim and Cronenworth, it's like, look, dude, like we don't want to trade them. In theory, we don't want to trade them. Now, we do want to trade Grish. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think we all three want to trade Grish. But for Kim and Cronenworth, we don't want to move them because we like them. So yeah, I don't know. Kim's not a great offensive player. He does bring in the Korean market. Yeah, and I think there's a chance that the Padres are gonna play in South Korea next year too. I think that's a thing. Kim is a free agent after 2024. He's gonna get some good money for sure. Yeah, that's what seems most likely. And that's why you could see a move because he still has value in terms of being traded. But it's just weird. Maybe they are like, hey, we want Kim, we don't want Cronenworth, and there is a market for Cronenworth. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what people think about his contract, but it is tough. Now going back real quick, I was brought up I guess it's only been 2 good starts for Blake Snell. Because in Boston, he got completely rocked in that one. I forgot about that outing. But even then, like you got 2 outings. We know that Blake Snell is going to be fine. He's going to ball out in the second half. He has the strangest first half to second half splits that you'll ever see, where he is like a borderline starter in terms of numbers. He's like a 5 ERA guy almost in the first half of the season. And then all of a sudden, All-Star break hits, and it's all right, let's turn it on, Blake Snell. You're going to be a Cy Young caliber player. You're probably going to win a pitcher of the month in the second half of the season, and you're just going to be a monster. So we already know that's going to happen. That's coming for sure. But yeah, I don't know if Shane Bieber is an ace. Look at the savant numbers. I don't know. I haven't really kept up on him, honestly. If he's been struggling, that makes even more sense for why they want to trade him. Also, the Guardians have been pretty disappointing this year as well. Yeah, I think Brent, I agree with you. Like, it would be good to get a Corbin Burnes or someone like that. I don't think that Snell's going to have that big of a market in terms of like it's his last year in his contract, and I don't know what like a team trading for him isn't probably going to be expecting to keep him. So unless you're getting a guy, because Burnes has another year after this, and the Brewers are in the mix, so they don't really want to trade him. Anyone on the White Sox is definitely available though. That's for sure. Kim going to the Dodgers if he hits free agency, that would be kind of terrible. That'd be like awful. And also they have some guys coming back. I don't know if that's the case. The Dodgers have a lot of infielders too coming up and stuff. So I don't think that's really like for sure. Here we go. Any word on Manny's return? I believe Manny's back this weekend. Anyone know that? Like off the top of their head? I believe he is. I think the expectation that he's coming back in this homestand, but more of an emphasis on like the Chicago series. I mean, hopefully he's back tomorrow. That'd be awesome. But the homestand is only up until next Wednesday. So he should be back this next week. That's going to be huge. And hopefully like, because we saw that he didn't have the same pop he did like last year. Yeah, and you could definitely tell that he did not. He's more likely to return, but not guaranteed. Okay. I mean, that's still a good sign. I mean, we want to see Manny back quickly here. Also see this Trey Turner looks pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, and then you look at it like the Bogarts deal. I mean, I don't want to rip Bogarts, dude. Like, I really don't want to because it's so early on in the contract, but like, it is a little bit concerning. It is a little bit concerning. Not because I think he's, like, bad or anything like that, but it's like, it's a lot of money. He's already pretty old, and if you're gonna be like a non-800 plus OPS guy, you can allocate that money a lot better elsewhere. And so that's why it kinda hurts a little bit. Also, you have all those 2 guys that the Padres go after, and then the other guy that you go after and you don't get, but apparently the Padres were deep in the negotiations for this one. Aaron Judge, dude. Aaron Judge has been a monster. I mean, we all expect it from Aaron Judge, but like that's the guy that you want to pay. Like you want to pay those guys. You want to pay the Manny Machados, the Fernando Tatis, the Juan Sotos. I still think it's so funny that everyone was losing their mind about Juan Soto and he was struggling so much. And he's not even hitting the ball to to opposite field right now. And what is he sitting at right? I know he struck out a bunch today and went 0 for 3. I think went 0 for 3 for 3 Ks today, but he has a 913 OPS. That's like really bad for Juan Soto, and he's still absolutely carrying this offense at times. So you want to pay those guys big money, and it is a little bit concerning. I don't think it's one that we're looking at now like, oh, we shouldn't have done it because it's too early on. But like you feel it a little bit. You definitely are like, oh, is this going to look good in 5 years? Is this going to look really bad in 5 years? And my Red Sox buddies will tell me, hell no, dude. Bogarts is the guy. They all love Xander Bogarts. And I was super excited for him to come in. Just need a little bit more offensively. And he's kind of battled a couple random injuries. I think it was a wrist or a hand injury he had. So obviously that's going to be pretty impactful when you're looking at it from, oh, like you can't swing the bat. You can't generate as much power if your hand's jacked up. So yeah, but let me keep looking at stuff we got down here. We're paying for names. About to check out the battle of the teenagers, 6-year-old versus our 17-year-old in low A. That is awesome, Flat Life. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Ethan Salas because this kid is getting hyped up so much. It is so cool to see. So that's the plan for the episode tomorrow. Also going to give updates on Robbie Snellen, Jackson Merrill, everyone like that. The Padres pitching has actually been phenomenal from a farm system standpoint. Outside of I think Jay Groom's been really bad, but we're going to go through everyone and give a breakdown on that tomorrow. But yeah, I'm gonna keep looking here. Judge will fall off in 3 years. Too big of a frame. I mean, he could get hurt, but so could everyone. Everyone could get hurt. I'm not going to bank on that necessarily. I mean, he's playing center right now, dude, and he is nasty in center. I think most likely they kick him to right or he ends up DHing towards the end of that deal, but it doesn't. I mean, paying him all that money, it's still worth it because he is so good right now. He's insane. So I don't know. I like Aaron Judge a lot. I'm a big fan of his. I'm trying to see. Should we move Morahone? Another guy that's hurt coming back. Should we move Morahone this year? I don't think there would be much of a value from Morahone. Maybe it's like you need to include him into a deal to like get a deal done that you think is really a needle mover at the deadline and you end up moving him. I could see something like that, but I don't think they're going to be actively trying to trade Morahone. Problem is, I don't know what we'll get out of Morahone. He keeps having elbow, shoulder, like all that inflammation stuff. And it's just, you just don't know. And they keep trying to make him a starter and bounce him in and out. It's just rough because like he is so talented. And if he was able to put it together, he would be a really, really, really dominant back of the pinned arm. Like so good. Like think how Robert Suarez comes out there and just throws gas. Morahone has like more potential than he has. So I hope he can get healthy, man. Like that's, and like you guys have all heard Chase talk about it so many times, but like that's the one of Chase's like favorite players, and he's been so pumped for guys like Morahone and Lamet and some of these guys that their elbows just fall apart. So it's rough. Devin asked, "Did you see the Ohtani quote from the Padres employee?" I did not see that. What's the quote? Comment on it. I want to see what it is. And another one from Arthur. What did he say? Not Padres related, but y'all hear what Jordan Walker said about the Cardinals? I did not hear this. I'm assuming it's because they've been struggling and playing bad. What else we got? Go for Soler. I'm all down to go for Jorge Soler. Soler's a beast. I mean, he has so much power. Again, I don't think they're moving him. I just think that he's probably going to stay there for a little bit. I think he might be on a 1-year deal. But the Marlins right now are in playoff contention, so I don't think they're trying to like rush it. Since we're trading guys that are hurt, trade Pomeranz. you're gonna trade Pomeranz and like save like $1 million and attach a prospect if you do it. It's just would be a salary dump at this point, but that easily could happen, especially because if you're trying to float over the cap, like it's probably most likely that he gets traded for nothing somewhere. Like we give up a prospect, trade him, and eat most of his contract this year. That's probably the most likely thing that's going to happen with Drew Pomeranz, unfortunately. Disaster of a contract, not because he was bad, but just because he was hurt all the time. Who needs more home when Cosgrove and Carlton are killing it? Dude, Cosgrove's pretty dirty. He's got some nasty stuff. He looks pretty good. So I like him. I like him. Matt, where are Chase and Isaac? You look like you're struggling to keep up the chat. Chase right now is at work and Isaac is on vacation in Vegas. So I just figured I'd rock with this one. No, I'm not struggling to keep up in the chat. It's just I'm going through it all. It's hard to keep checking what people are saying, but I wanted to talk. I'm excited for today's game. I feel like a lot of times, like every time it's like, oh man, it was a rough series. The Padres offense sucked, this and this, and it's just kind of sad. Today I'm pumped. Like I was ecstatic watching the game. And especially because it starts and Luzardo comes out there and he's dominant. When he started those first 3 innings, he struck out like 6 guys and retired the first 9. He looked good. It looked like it was gonna be a rough game, and then they just turned it on. So I was pumped like that. Yeah, I mean, he would be such a good fit. We wanted to trade for him in the offseason. He was a guy that we really liked. He's not getting moved. He's going to stay on the Marlins because they have like 2+ years of control. They can kind of build around him. They can do some stuff like that. They're not going. There's no way they trade him. I think Soler's a lot more likely to be on the table than Arias. Let's see. We can beat Sandy and Luzardo, but lose to the other guy. Yeah, the guy that does like what is his name? Garrett. What's his name? Let me find it. Garrett, whatever. And also, like, he pitched good too. Something Bradley Garrett. Let me see. It's loading right now. Wi-Fi's dying on me. Braxton Garrett. Braxton's his first name. Okay. Yeah, he looked. I mean, he was. We couldn't hit him at all. 2 hits, 3 base runners, and someone got picked off. I think we went 2 or 3 over. Like we had like 30 guys come up to the plate, 29 guys come to the plate. That's brutal. And yet you were still this close to coming away with a win, which just goes to show how dominant this pitching has been for the Padres so far this year. Verdugo from Boston. Verdugo's another guy. That's a decent fit. I like the idea. And I really wonder, like, if you're looking at it from like you put your GM lens on, right? Your couch GM or whatever it is. Do you think the Padres, if they're going to trade for an outfielder, like a corner outfielder or an infielder, first baseman, whatever it is, whatever bat they trade for, do you think it makes more sense to trade for a guy that hits for power or hits for average? I would rather trade for a guy that hits for average because this team cannot hit for average. The best guy right now in terms of average right now, I think, is Soto, and he's hitting 259. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, average doesn't matter. Average doesn't matter. I completely disagree. I think your batting average should still matter a lot. And the term is like, oh, a walk's as good as a hit. No, it's not. Because we've watched what a walk and a hit and the difference of that this season. A walk gets a guy on base. And the Padres walk all the time. The Padres walk a bunch. But they don't drive guys in because they don't hit for a high average. So I would rather see someone like that. Yeah, let's pick up Charlie Blackmon. I mean, dude, he would be a cool guy to add. Like, he's not very good anymore. This would be decent for Tuco for Groom. That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. Charlie Blackmon's on. What is Charlie Blackmon hitting actually? Is he having a little bit of a resurgence? Because the last couple of years he's been pretty terrible. I don't think he's been anything special. I also believe Charlie Blackmon makes a pretty good amount of money, which takes him off the table. Yeah, he's on a 6-year, $108 million deal. I don't know what year he's in that, but he's not really worth it. Right now, I mean, he has an 835 OPS, only 5 homers. I guess it's not that bad. He's also playing Colorado, so I feel like that's like already a benefit in itself. It's always hard to like determine. Like, imagine like it's old version of Charlie Blackmon, right? And he's going from hitting at Coors to hitting at Petco. That's one of the biggest Like, that is going from the best hitting baseball park to the worst based off last season. Like, that is best to the worst in terms of how it helps your offense. So you would expect him to regress heavily, and the Padres already almost every guy they trade for already regresses so badly that I don't really know if I'm fully on board, even though I like Charlie Blackmon. And yeah, he's only good against the Padres. He absolutely owns us. So I don't really know why I like him, but seems like a cool enough guy. The best fit for this team would be Brian Reynolds, but he just got extended. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I like Verdugo. I like Luis Robert. I need to see which one it is. I never watched White Sox games, so I don't know how they actually pronounce it. But he's good. And I'm trying to think. There was another guy. There's a couple other guys. Oh, we like the idea of adding Jock. And the problem is it would be an interdivision trade, and the Giants are kind of contending, but last year they were like on the borderline too, so it'd have to be willing to give him up. But that would be a really good ad for the lineup. CJ Crone free agency next year. Dude, if they end up moving Kim or Cronenworth and you could get rid of Crone for Crone, that's pretty hilarious. But CJ Crone he's good. He's really good. Joey Gallo. Let's see. I mean, Joey Gallo, we can never count him out. We've said this, that we guarantee that he's going to end up being a Padre at some point, and I still believe that. Right now, he's doing a little bit better. He's hitting a $194. I feel like Joey Gallo is the exact opposite of what we need to do. He has decent numbers. He has a 125 OPS plus, but he has 194 batting average. I feel like adding Joey Gallo to this lineup where it's like you've had all these average problems and all these runners in scoring position problems. I feel like that would be like the worst thing you could do. Like, and I don't even think he's that bad of a player. I think he gets like overrated. I think it's just because he was so hyped up when he was younger. Like, I don't know. I don't want to add Joey Gallo, that's for sure. But it's always an option when Preller's running the show. Trading for any player in the division is a pipe dream. I mean, there was some interdivision trades last year. Little bit different, but Contreras got traded. Did Contreras get traded interdivision? Maybe he didn't. I forget. But like you see it every once in a while. I don't think it's impossible. It's pretty rare. But if a team's not contending, like for instance, like I was talking about trading with the Giants compared to trading with the Rockies is so much different because the Rockies, they're not going to be like there. They're not going to be contending. They're not trying to contend. They don't care if we're good. They don't care if this trade is making us better this year. But the Giants might not be feeling that way. And right now they're in a playoff spot. So I think it's a lot less likely. But I guess that's extra incentive to sweep them when we match up with them in a couple weeks. Like, all right, we're gonna sweep you, and we're gonna trade for Jock Peterson. I don't know if it's really gonna happen, but we'll see. I do think that corner outfield is gonna be something. Yeah, we gotta get Brent Rooker back. That was a bummy trade for Cam Gallagher. Yeah, dude, he's been a monster this year. He's been really good. It was east to central for Contreras. Any chance of getting Profar back? That's another corner outfielder you could go after. I mean, definitely. I think there's 100% a chance. And I want to see what he's been playing like this year. I don't think he's been that great. I think he's been pretty normal Profar. Yeah, 240. He could definitely be in as an option. I mean, nah, he's been pretty bad offensively. He's been pretty bad, but also like he's in a new spot. He could come back here. It seemed like he was most comfortable when he was here than other places that he's been in his career. I'm not discussing this one. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know what else. Anything else you guys got for me? I feel like we've kind of went through it all. We talked about the bullpen a little bit. I didn't really bring up too many guys. Cosgrove, I brought up Hader blowing the save. It's gonna happen. Hader had been ridiculous up to that point, so you can't really be upset at him. Also, it was just kind of like a weird situation, like couple ground balls. He walks guy, a couple ground ball hits, like, or I think one of them was kind of like a decent contact, but it was just like it was just rough. Bally Sports Fallout. Yeah, I don't know too much on it. I mean, basically, for me, it doesn't change anything because I just watch on MLB TV, so it didn't change anything. But there were those weather problems when, like, the news got announced, like, "Oh, Bally Sports is done," and I really thought they pulled the plug. I was like, "No way." Like, they were like, there was that, like, toxic or, like, I don't know, like, such a bad, like, ending, like, divorce of that relationship that you just pulled the plug in the middle of the game. So I went to the Marlins, and then theirs was all jacked up, and then there was, like, no audio for a while. So that was kinda funny to watch, but, yeah, I mean, I think it's overall, it's a good thing, long term. I don't know how it affects everyone locally. I'll have to ask my dad about that one just to see what's going on with it. But yeah, I mean, I kinda did a recap on the series. I mean, biggest thing I would say for this one is the bats are starting to wake up, and you got Blake Snell and Joe Musgrove pitching really well, and that is so massive. Um, Padres end up getting 80% of the revenue this year. It seems like kind of a dub for the Padres. No more blackouts, that would be huge. As much as I want Profar back, I don't wanna see Soto back in right field more. Yeah, you don't want Profar in right. Profar doesn't have, I mean, he had a good arm in left, but, like, I don't know, maybe you definitely don't want him in center, that's for sure, because he is way too slow to play center. That'd be kinda weird. I don't know if they'll do it. They probably won't, but I don't know. He's a Ranger, so of course he's on the table. Just go and look at all the guys that used to be on the Rangers organization, and those are who we might trade for. Injury updates. I think the only big one with injury wise is that Manny should be back really soon. He's supposed to be back this homestand. Hopefully that is tomorrow. I think it's probably a little bit unlikely that it's tomorrow, but if it is, I mean, that's fantastic. And it's also coming at a good time because looking through this lineup, Kim's been hitting really, really well. Tatis, 3 doubles today. Soto, he didn't have a hit the last couple days. I don't care. Soto's been a monster lately. Bogarts is starting to heat back up again. He was in a slump for a while. He hasn't had like a crazy breakout, but he's hitting the ball a lot better. Dixon's been all right. I mean, I guess Dixon would be in the lineup at this point. Cronenworth heavily slumping. Both your DHs heavily slumping. Grish heavily slumping. But then we got Gary Sanchez, so it fixes bottom of the order. Okay, not really, but I wish it did. But yeah, I mean, you have a lot of these guys at the top of the order hitting better. The lineup can be spread out a little bit more. Like, let's say that you want to push Bogarts down to 5, and then you have Cronenworth or whoever at 6. Like you can stretch it a lot more. And I think that we're going to see Ha-Seong Kim lead off quiet, like a lot more, because it seems like Tatis kind of likes hitting out of that 2 spot, and maybe I think he's fine either way, but I feel like I would rather have Kim leading off, Tatis hitting second. If Kim's hot, if Kim's slumping or something, then don't hit him up there because he just doesn't bring enough offensively. But if he's getting on base at a decent enough clip, you can put him there because he's a great leadoff hitter if he's hitting well. If he's getting on base 35% of the time, well, hey, if you get on base that much, he's fast. He's a threat on the base pass. He's the biggest threat on this team when it comes to base running. So I like the idea of him doing that, like him leading off a little bit. And it's gone well when they've done that as well. Is Matt Carpenter going to make it to the end of the year? Yes, but I cannot say the same thing about Nelson Cruz. Matt Carpenter will probably make it. Not probably. He will see the next 2 years of his contract, include this year and then the next year after that, because no one else will pay him that. And maybe he gets moved or whatever. That is a bad contract. Even if he improves, that is most likely going to be a really bad contract, unfortunately. But we'll see. We'll see with what it looks like. I mean, he had a really rough month. And he was hitting the ball pretty well in April, but May was brutal for him, man. Like it was terrible. And apparently he's about to go on IL. So maybe he's been kind of dealing with some injuries and stuff, and he'll improve like now. But it's been a rough start of the year for him. Yeah, Nelson Cruz is making $1 million, so he could be easy to DFA. But yeah, I think that's probably gonna do it, guys. Thanks so much for listening. I thought I was gonna talk for like 20 minutes, but it was a fun stream. Had a great time talking to everyone. So I hope you all have a great night. We will have a video. We should have a video out tomorrow. It's hard with our schedules. They're so opposite that we just try to like bounce it around and make it work. The plan is basically Chase is recording before work, I'm recording after work, and this little time gap that we have. So if we can do it, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna talk about Ethan Salas, Jackson Merrill, all the top prospects, because it's been quite some time since we actually talked about all those guys. So we're gonna do that, and we will 100% be going live Sunday night. I think Isaac's gonna be back. If Isaac's not back, I'm gonna be on, and one of my buddies, Mike, who's a Cubs fan, will be on too. So there'll at least be two of us. Hopefully Isaac will be there too, so we can get some some banter going with Mike, because Mike likes to talk a lot of shit and it's fun to talk to him. But last time the Cubs beat us in a series, so I owed him $10. But yeah, thank you all. Have a great night. Appreciate everyone liking the stream and stuff. So we'll see y'all soon. Go Padres. Hopefully this is a turning point. I feel like I've said that 100 times this year. Hopefully this time it's the case. And Gary Sanchez for MVP. All right. Good night, everyone.